So the keynote address here at World Championship Philadelphia wrapped up just a few hours ago, and there's a ton of bangers out of this. Not only did we, of course, get the new product announcements, but the much awaited announcement on how the heck we were going to do hero legality for Silver Age. So let's go ahead and dive into all of that in today's presentation. That's right, live from the hotel room.
A huge shout out to our channel members for supporting what we do here. If you want to get involved with the channel and the Dice Commando community, please consider joining as a channel member. Remember, these videos are only possible with your support. You can show that support with a like, a subscribe, and by leaving us a comment and sharing your feedback. Community first, and go Commando.
Hey there, my Flesh and Blood friends. Welcome back to the channel, and happy Flesh and Blood Friday. Headed into Worlds, that's right. So the keynote address just happened, just a few hours before I am shooting this, and last night, if you were watching this, obviously on Friday morning. But there's a ton of amazing stuff that happened out of this. So as you can tell, I'm shooting from the hotel room, also realizing with the crappy lighting that I should not have worn white, but it is what it is. And we have my lovely wife back here who's just trying to stay out and hoping that this doesn't take a million years, and bless her heart. All right, so the keynote, obviously, Brian did the well, maybe not obviously, but Brian did the keynote, and I thought he did a really amazing job. The whole presentation was overall pretty well. They did have everyone standing, which I think was actually the right play. Right, in the past, they'd had people sitting and stuff, but more people were able to get close and participate, and like the cheers and stuff. The energy in the room was really high. So I don't think that's a problem. And then at the end, we got these things, which I have not gone through the entire thing. There's like articles and stuff in here that you can't see. The articles and stuff in here that I haven't read through yet, but some big stuff. There's spoilers in there. There's spoilers in there, which certainly at this point, the majority of you have all seen, which is fair. But I wanted to talk about the keynote itself and not just recap the screenshots that I took, which I do have screenshots in the slideshow that we'll go through. But let's talk about some of the things as we go through. So first off, just wanted to share some photos I took at the beginning of Brian up there doing his thing. Again, I thought he did a really good job getting the crowd riled up. Obviously, he's done this before. I think it was Amsterdam, I think, is when, or maybe it was the one in Japan. Either way, he does a great job, and he did a pretty good job getting everyone energized. There were definitely shouts and screams. Now, when the trailer rolled for the new set, that's basically what they led with, right? Which is like, what is Pen? That's what everyone was super excited about. So basically, the overall structure was really three things. It was the new set coming out in January, how that was going to land and work. It was Silver Age, which was a huge part of this, and then it was really at least the first half of 2026 OP, and that was really the approach they took. And the presentation was about 20 and change minutes. Went through it pretty well, and again, like I said, a lot of energy out of that. So the trailer, when it came out, hopefully I'm certain it's been up by the point that you are watching this and you've already watched it, but as you go through the trailer, the individual heroes pop up on the screen, or I should say art of the individual heroes pop up on the screen, and the room was going nuts, but different parts of the room as their hero would come up. When Teklovasen, for example, they showed Teklovasen, so people were like, yeah, right? So the Teklo stands, you're still out there. Dromai got put up there, and obviously, right? And it was just pretty cool seeing everybody cheer back and forth, but it was definitely like different parts of the room, and I thought that was really neat going through the trailer of evoking that. And by the time we got to like 5 or 6 heroes of different classes, like there was warrior stuff, and there was light stuff, and there was shadow stuff. So it kind of started with the light and shadow, except Teklovasen was in there, and then all of a sudden there was a ranger shooting an arrow, and at that point I was like, yep, confirmed, it's going to be a supplemental set, or an expansion set is actually what he called it. But either way, I think they've used those interchangeably over the years. But it is not going to be a traditional draftable set with the 3-4 hero type thing. It is going to be a supplemental set called Compendium of Rathe, right? So this is going to be really fun. So it is obviously expanding the game, but it's also, I think going in, I think there was a fair amount of speculation that it would be an expansion set, because primarily of the reason that we knew it was going to support Silver Age, right? And if you're thinking about how are you going to get commons and rares in a general support thing, right? It would be very, not impossible, but it would be unconventional to use the expansion slot to do so. And it makes a lot of sense that this would land the way it did. And shout out to those of you on the channel who had pointed that out in comments as well in the past, that you thought it was going to be that. Once it was recommended, I was like, yeah, that does make a lot of sense. So with that out there, it then tracks pretty well that you are going to have pretty even and wide support to kind of fill a lot of gaps. I know Brian and James in the 6th anniversary stream had talked about equipment being a pretty fair thing that we would see. I mean, you know, battle warrants for everybody, that kind of thing, right? One battle warrant with an ability for everybody. I think that might be we're headed for a lot of classes as it may be. So this is going to be definitely one to keep our eye on. And then, you know, expansion sets, like if you look back to Everfest was easily one of the most impactful sets we had in terms of leveling up the game. So there's really no reason not to think that this could be very much in the same vein of really filling a lot of gaps that heroes need. That one of the problems we've had with the expansion slot is that all new cards are being introduced as bombs, which means that in many cases you don't have, like, in many cases you might need a full arc of a card to really help like level up a hero, right? Like look at a Boltyn or something like that, right? So in general, even if they're getting expansion set cards, they'd still have to wait for a larger expansion or a larger set to come out, to get like full baseline arc support. And this is exactly what needed. So I think the timing on this is exactly correct, and it makes a lot of sense to me. Now let's go into the details. Iconic reprints are incoming. The two that they showed are Balance of Justice and Shelter from the Storm, both with new art. So they'll be able to do the treatment thing on that, kind of skirt around the reprint policy by putting new art on it. But Shelter is going to be a very welcome reprint, and I know Balance of Justice as well. Maybe others, hoping for others as well, right? Wouldn't stink to see like quick dodge flexures again and stuff like that, but I know Balance of Justice and certainly Shelter are going to be very welcome. We also have the return of the gold pack. They're calling it the archive pack, but it's functionally this. Well, by saying it's functionally the same thing refers to the contents, but in terms of the distribution of this, it's functionally the same as the gold pack, and that there's going to be one per box, one per display. So this, what was fun about this, or not fun, but what was interesting about this was, up until that point, basically everything that Brian said was just cheers and excitement and, oh my God, the reprints are coming. And they put on this one, and the room was kind of not as cheery. Nobody, it wasn't like boos or anything like that, but everyone was like, yeah, every announcement. And then he said that, and everyone's kind of like, okay. So we'll see how this one plays out long term. And I know a lot of collectors like this, but we can talk more about this in the future. But putting the extra pack in there makes things interesting at the LGS level in terms of selling packs versus boxes, right? Because, again, in high seas, like this was like, what, 30-ish bucks or whatever. So it kind of devalues the pack. So stores are more incentivized to sell boxes versus open boxes to sell packs. And I do think that has a ramifications at the local level. At the overall level, I think it has basically no difference. So, maybe neither here nor there, but I'm not, as long as there's nothing exclusive in there, it's not a functional problem for the game. And, the high seas packs had that as well. So it wasn't a functional problem for actually being able to play the game, and that's a good thing. The other thing, which is huge, is reprints of Fables. So these will almost certainly be in the archive pack, right? Like, I think that goes without saying here. But the one they showed was IF50. I don't know if they're all coming, but I wouldn't mind having another chance to actually open an eye at some point, or heck, even get an eye, or not an eye, excuse me, a heart. I mean, I don't have an eye either, but I'll take either one. I'll take either one. But this is really good. This is really good. Another thing that they noted out of Penn, which was huge, and this was before the archive thing and was met with huge cheers, is that there are going to be 3 rares per pack in Penn. Or 3 rares or better, I should say, 3 rare or better slots in Penn. And the cold foil drop rate is going to be 1 in 8 packs. So that's pretty cool, right? We all love our cold foils. Yes, we do. All right, we then moved on to, so with all the excitement around Penn and stuff, I know that I went in, I know a lot of other people went in really wanting to know about Silver Age and the future of Silver Age and the role that Silver Age is going to play. And we got a lot of answers around that, which are exciting, crazy, scary, and then exciting again all at the same time. So the big news on this slide that I'm showing right now is that the events will be at local in March. Starting in March, World Tour events will include Silver Age, including Pro Tour Yokohama, which will be playing both Classic Constructed and Silver Age. Now, in past Silver Ages, or excuse me, in past Pro Tours, right, they've done a mix of Classic Constructed and Limited, or another format as it may be. I think it's always been Limited. Because we're getting a supplemental or expansion set, whatever, that's not going to be a possibility for this to draft the latest set. To be fair, they never really did that for Super Slam. It would have probably been done at Worlds, but they didn't, which is fine. But what they're doing here is they're replacing that portion with Silver Age. So we are all going to see, the world is going to see Silver Age featured at the highest level of play, which is mind-blowingly exciting. And it's going to be very interesting to see where that goes. And because when they promised your $20 ticket to the World Tour, it wasn't just the World Tour, it's to potentially winning a Pro Tour. I don't think you're going to do one of those with the pre-con deck, but we have yet to see the pre-con deck, so fair enough. All right, so that brings us to perhaps the most anticipated part, or at least for me, my most anticipated part of this keynote, which was the announcement of how we were going to handle rotation for Silver Age. Now, I don't want to steal too much thunder out of this because Alex at Ashen Wings and I, we have a date this weekend. We're going to sit down in the Flesh and Blood and talk about this. But the TLDR is that there is a governing body that is going to have input on Silver Age rotation, and that is you and us. And the community is going to be able to vote at the end of each season or during each season or whatever. We don't know the exact tactics yet, right? But at some point in each season, the community at large is going to have the chance to vote, and they will be able to... So the recall we have from without being able to go back and watch a video or anything at this time, what we recall was that the community was going to be able to vote, and the top 3 votes, and vote on who they want to leave. The top 3 votes would leave, and then the designers also would have 1 slot that they could allocate to who would leave. Now, it is our current understanding or impression that the heroes will return after being banned. I was too excited and lost, and luckily my wife was, we were talking about it at dinner, and luckily she was like, no, they only leave for the season, but if they get voted twice, they'd be out for 2 seasons and then 3 seasons. That's at least what we extracted from that. So it'd be very interesting to see how this plays out long term, because like in theory, if you voted out Ira, she's gone for a season, she comes back, you vote her out again, then she's gone for 2. Well, that's very interesting. Now, this is also damn scary because, let's be honest, as individuals, we are all pretty intelligent. As a gaming community, sometimes not so much. So we will see how this goes, but I mean, at face level, if the community is tired of losing to a specific hero, that specific hero would be gone. The interesting part of that is it's not really taking into account that, like, if hero A leaves, hero B could become a problem, and I guess hero B then just voted out the next time. I don't know. Let's see how this goes. This could be interesting. But the best part of it, in Brian's description, was at the end, he said, if it doesn't work, I'm going to blame you all. I thought that was pretty funny. Because, hey, you're getting what you asked for from a certain point of view. Deal with it. So I thought that was pretty funny. But this is going to be very, very, very interesting. All right, and then moving on to the world premiere for Pen will be in London, and will be a Silver Age tournament with chapters 1 and 2 legal, plus you'll also be able to tack, they said you'd also be able to tack on boxes of Pen to your ticket order so that you could play Constructed Silver Age that weekend. Because if you think about it, right, with tons of product being open that weekend, because the world premiere, right, can't be, usually the world premiere is limited. Well, the world premiere is not going to be able to be limited. So you're playing Constructed Sage. And the idea is that with all that product that'll be open there, because you're only looking at commons and rares, that you're going to be able to trade or get what you need And I think that's true. Like, I think that's pretty reasonable, especially if you're able to tack on those buys to your login ticket, right? Now, what's interesting about that from a pen standpoint is, you know, those with like proxy testing groups and stuff will be able to get a pretty big advantage on that in theory. But hey, you know, anybody can print out take a card and write a Sharpie on it, right? That's what I do. So I don't think it's a big deal. And then they have something called a hot stamped card. So we'll have to see what that is, but those are exclusive to this. And of course, it's Icelander. Why would it not be? Okay. So that's pretty neat as well. And then we have the introduction of the tournament pack, which it looks to be a gem pack. And that will be a new thing for tournament, as opposed to like signing and getting, you know, I mean, as it is now, we get those little cellophane. I actually didn't pick up my package today, but I have one waiting for me at the hall. You get the little cellophane packs with, you know, the promo set in or whatever. You'll just get a tournament pack instead. You'll get a fancy gem pack, so to speak. Essentially just a fancy gem pack. All right, more ads then for Pro Tour. At this point of the presentation, he moved into talking about Pro Tour and then the events for the first half of the year. And there is some interesting stuff here in terms of how Silver Age, again, is going to be inserting itself into the format. So 2 million up from 1.5 million before. This was, he did confirm this and mention that they're going to continue to feed, you know, as the game grows, they're going to continue to feed the engine, which makes complete sense to me. I mean, that's what's making, in my opinion, the game grow right now, is the World Tour and being the most competitive, best competitive game on the market, I should say. So Pro Tour Las Vegas was announced for middle of July. So that's pretty cool. If you live in North America, that's pretty cool because it'll be a lot closer. But what you see now is the OP roadmap, so to speak, for the seasonal roadmap, I should say, for the rest of the first half of the year leading up to that. And you'll notice specifically, so none of this is new. Well, the first 2 lines are not new. ProQuest Las Vegas, you notice there's 2 lines for that. So we're going to be playing Sage for 3 weekends, and then we're going to be playing CC for 2 weekends, all in ProQuest Las Vegas season. So you could qualify for PTLV either with Sage or with CC. And then finally, as no surprise to anybody, the next skirmish season will in fact be Sage, but we do have the dates for that now, which is April through May, which should secure us perfectly for another skirmish season after ProQuest, putting it in late August, which is very, very, very consistent with what we've seen in the past. April, May, late summer, again in November after Worlds, seems to be set up. It's tried and true, it works, seems to work. And then, to cap it all off, one more thing. Armory Deck Origins, new product, that's right, Hala, Blade Saint of the Vow. So brand new warrior. Also, when they played the video for this, you saw the armor, and they were putting on the armor, and then there was this big sword, and everyone's like, ooh, warrior, big sword. Yes, confirmed warrior. And now we have Hala, right? So this is Mentor, become hero. So he was putting it on. I was like, oh, is it Dorinthea's teacher? No, well, different one, right? Not the first one, right? I mean, I think she died anyway. Didn't she die anyway? Wasn't that part of the card? Wasn't that one of the cards in Dusk Till Dawn? I think it was. I'll search and put it up. But it certainly was. I think she sacrificed herself, yes. But either way, we have Hala, Blade Saint of the Vow. So action for 3 resources. Tap, sharpen, target sword you control, go again. Put a +1 counter on it. Remove all +1 counters from it at the end of the turn. I do not know what the ramifications of this are yet, but being able to use cards that, like Oath of Steel, right, lets you put a counter on, I think, each time you attack. Is that true? Or at least counter for the turn? Anyway, like I said, I need to wrap my head around this. I was just excited that there's a warrior. I don't know what the ramifications are of this yet, but yes, you know we're going to be talking about it going into the future. So we have Armory Deck, hello, and we're going to be abusing the heck out of that joke for many, many years to come. So that's set for April, which is not that far away. Not that far away. We're going to get out of Christmas. We're going to get out of the holidays. And then before you know it, it's going to be early spring, and we're going to have a brand new warrior to deal with out there. So product roadmap, into, so they had to announce that first before the product roadmap, which makes sense. So we have Companion of Wrath, and then Silver Age. Actually, I keep saying Wrath. It's Rathe. Sorry. It's been a long day. All right, and then we have Set 19, another Armory deck, and then Sage Chapter 3. The question will be, is that Armory deck in Q2 paired with... Oh, well, no, that'd be in Q2, so that would actually be Hala. Sorry, that would be Hala, because that's Q2, which is in April. Makes sense. In Set 20, a Mastery Pack. In Q3, we have Set 20, an Armory deck and Mastery Pack. So I'm assuming, because their new thing has been to have an Armory deck with the set. So I'm assuming we'll actually have 2 Armory decks in Q2, 2 Armory decks in Q3 with a Mastery Pack, and then in Q4 we'll have another Armory deck and a Mastery Pack. 2 Mastery Packs. Don't know the class yet. And he did mention, yes, we learned a lot of lessons from Mastery Pack Guardian. We've changed our approach quite a bit, so look forward to that. So those are all the photos I took. There was no Q&A session or anything like that. He kind of just got up there, got the crowd energized, wham bam, thank you, man, got off the stage, and I think he did a really good job. And the crowd was extremely, extremely energized after that, which, I think makes sense. A lot of cool stuff. You always get excited on new stuff. I think the only thing that we have to really put a lot of thought into how it's going to play out is the Silver Age rotation thing. I think that's going to be very interesting to watch how this plays out over the next couple of years. But you betcha believe we're going to be talking about that more into the future. So anyway, that is my recap again from my perspective. I was like 3 back, letting Aggro Blaze and DM Armada were both like right in front of me doing their stream thing. So hopefully you caught their streams. And again, I know this stuff's all over the internet by now. But again, just sharing my perspective and what I saw. Thanks for joining. I'll let you know how the weekend goes. And go Commando.